So I'm going to be sharing my experience with TGM Events. I'm wearing this because I'm really sick and I don't want to get the people around me sick. But basically, I went to the SF show and I already had a bad feeling about it since 2 days before the show, they announced that lining up outside of the venue wasn't going to be allowed. Which I knew was going to create a mess because they're going to assign seats. And that's when people start complaining. They're like, how are you going to assign seats? Like, who gets first row? Like, how are you going to decide who gets first row, second row, third row? Like, it's easier when it's early bird, like first come, first serve type of thing. Like, the earlier you come, the closer you are, because that's just how it usually works for events. But they decided that they're going to assign seat numbers. So that started causing a lot of chaos even before the event started. People were complaining. And then eventually they said that they were going to do it by time step. The earlier you bought your shirt, the closer you were going to be to the stage. And then people started complaining because people bought their shirts like separately, but they wanted to be seated with their friends. So they were like, what if we were planning to get in line with a group of friends? Like, how are we going to sit with our friends if you're giving everyone like a different seat number depending on their order numbers, and they ordered separately? So then they decided to say that if you emailed them your order numbers with everyone else's order numbers from your group or friends you were going to, they would seat you together. But there was over 1,000 people like attending, and they said this before 2 days before the event was going to start. How are they going to seat 1,000 people? Like, how are they going to organize all of that, having like thousands of people like emailing them like different order numbers? And I'm like, that would take forever, and they did this 2 days before, so I was just like, it's gonna be such a fail. And then they said that the check-in was gonna be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it wasn't going to be at the venue since we can't line up there. It was going to be at a different place, the hotel. Which is kind of weird because, you know, usually you get your bracelet ticket at the venue, but they made us go to a different place, the hotel. I got there like at 2. I thought it was going to be pretty quick, but the line was taking forever. I was there for a couple hours. And mind you, the autograph session started at 5 p.m. And it was 4 o'clock when I finally got my bracelet. But that's when staff started to panic because the autograph session was at 5 and there were still a lot of VIPs and autograph holders that had not gotten their pass. Plus, you still have to go to the venue since we weren't at the venue, so that was going to take some time. So then the staff was like, okay, anybody who has an autograph pass or is a VIP, cut in front of the line. So people started doing that. But the reason why our line was going so slow was because they completely messed up the seating charts. There was VIPs who were in the balcony, and there's non-VIPs that were sitting where VIPs should be sitting. It was just all a mess, and every time someone would go, they'd complain and see if they could get their seats changed. But I think it was Tanya. She was getting kind of annoyed, and she was just like, can you just not, like, getting irritated? Like, she was stressed, but still, you don't talk to people like that. And there was really nothing they could do. Like, people just kind of had to accept the fact that they weren't going to be sitting with their friends. So I get to the venue, like, a couple minutes before 5, and there's 2 lines. There's the line with the VIPs and the autograph holders, and then there's another line for people to get their bracelets, because after I think 4 p.m. You had to get your bracelet at the venue. So there was some VIPs that were in the second line to get their bracelet, but the autograph session was starting, so then they kind of had to do like a temporary bracelet thing. Like, they gave them a white wristband, which is for the VIPs, but they didn't assign them seat numbers. They basically said, come back after the autograph signing so we can assign you seat numbers. So I'm like, that's going to be kind of a hassle, but that's what they had to do. So I got in line. This is probably the best part of the whole show was the autograph signing. They were rushing us, but they weren't being like super rude. They were just, yelling and yelling, like, hurry up, kind of like pushing. But they weren't super rude at this point. And then we went through that, and they had told us that after the autograph signing, we had to leave and come back at 6:30 till the show to actually start. But for some reason, they took us to like this quad parking lot place, and they had us all standing there, and I was kind of confused. Like, I thought you guys told us to leave. And then there's still people who had the temporary like VIP pass and needed their seat numbers. So we had to leave the building and go find people so they can assign my friends. I already had my seat number, so they could assign my friends their seat numbers. That was kind of a hassle, but they finally got seat numbers. And then we went inside the venue. There wasn't a lot of people inside for some reason. It was like a couple, and I got my seat. I was sitting next to my friend. Thankfully, they didn't seat me somewhere else, but most people got separated from their friends. And all of a sudden, I see like people running into the venue. And I'm like, oh, I guess they're just like, excited in a hurry. And mind you, the first row, I was like in the third row, but the first row was unoccupied. I guess the people who had those seats were late. Shouldn't have been late. And then these girls just like sit down really fast. And then I'm like, oh, I guess that's their seat. And she turns around, she's like, so TGM just told everyone, whether you're like general or VIP, to just come in and find any seat you can. First row, second row. If it's empty, go sit down there. And everyone in the second row and third row, we were all VIPs. So we looked at each other like, we just, like, first row just got taken by general admission, who paid $50, $70, and we paid over $200. Everyone just came kind of like that. We didn't say anything. We were just kind of like, like, the fuck? Like, who does that? Like, TGM really just said, fuck the seating chart, because they were running 40 minutes behind schedule. I'm like, how is that our fault? Like, that's your fault for fucking up the seating chart. And they did that. And all of a sudden, people started fighting because, mind you, probably like about half of the people did have sitting numbers. So say these girls went to the first row to sit in their seat, and those general admission girls were sitting there, and they were just kind of like staring at them like, those are our seats. And then the girls that were sitting there just kind of stared at them like, they didn't say anything, and the VIP girls just walked away, and we were all staring at the VIP girls like, why aren't you taking your seat? Like, you obviously paid for more. But then again, TGM did say sit wherever, so they couldn't really do much. And we basically witnessed that everywhere. People started fighting, going crazy over finding these seats. They were arguing behind us. There was these girls just going at it, like, get out of my seat. And then they're like, no, I'm not gonna move. And then get out of my seat. Like, I was like, a fight's about to break loose. Like, that's really bad. Like, physical fights could have, like, broken out, and there'd be, like, hundreds of fangirls just like fighting each other over the seats. So I'm just like, And then after, I guess, some people refusing to move, then that's when you start seeing fans crying, and I felt bad. I'm like, damn, like, this really isn't like the way we were expecting things to go. Finally, once the show actually started, everyone like obviously settled in because we love our boys, and we were like, BTS, chanting. They performed like 5 songs. And you know how usually when they on the stage and when they're leaving, they stay there for like a minute or two, and they're like say like their goodbyes. But literally right when the song ended, they like walked off, and Jimmy was like the only one that said anything and just waved bye. And we're like, oh, they're coming back for at least one more song. So we were like, encore, encore, like yelling it for hella long. The lights were turned off for a while. Eventually they just turned on, and everyone was like staring at each other. Like, really, I was like, oh, they're probably trolling us because, you know, it's BTS. They're trolling us. They're like, gonna come out. But then that's when we heard the TGM staff say, like, everyone who's a VIP and has a photo pass, go outside. So we all went outside and we're like, oh, so I guess that was like the show. So there was this huge ass line. It was just a mess, and we were outside for the longest. And they didn't check. Not once did they check if we were general, VIP, photo pass, like what we had. Not once was I checked. Like, I could have been general and I could have easily gone into the photo, like, done everything as a VIP. So that was pretty, like, effed up. Like, what was the point of me paying over $200 if everyone was gonna get the same treatment? Even better than the VIPs. So we were in line for a long time. They had no clue what they were doing. We literally were, like, moved on this side, staff yelling at us, like, get in line on this side, single file line, yelling. And then we get in line, and they'd be like, no, get in line over here. And then the photo, they announced, when we bought the before we bought the tickets, that the photo group session was going to be 8 to 10 people. And, you know, that was honestly what I was most excited for. The photo session that I got to take, I was going to take a picture with BTS. Like, I was just counting down the days. And then all of a sudden, they announced that it's 25 people. That's over double the amount that they had originally said. And people were really annoyed. But again, we can't do anything. People were like, you guys said 8 to 10. And they just completely disregarded us. And the high touch, I thought it was going to be separate. But it was literally... I was so confused. They didn't tell us what was going on. All I knew was 25 people. And we were so confused how the high touch was going to work in the photo session. And we finally got into the room, and we literally, like, high-touched them, like, super fast. Like, couldn't even process anything. Staff was moving us. And literally right after the high-touch, they were like, okay, turn around and go on that wall. And we're like, wait, what? Like, literally, like, we were just kind of, like, so confused. And I was there was 3 rows. I was all the way in the back. And then the middle kind of had to crouch. And then BTS had to squat and sit on the floor. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like... If anything, BTS should be the one standing inside, and the fans will gladly, like, sit on the floor and crouch. Like, I was hella mad. Plus, all the girls in front of me were hella tall, so I literally was, like, jumping and going on my tippy toes. Like, I almost cried. Like, I really didn't think I was going to be in the picture. I still don't know if I'm in the picture because TGM still hasn't released the picture, so I don't even know if you can see my face. And to have paid over $200 for that shitty experience, I'm just mad because I really just expected more from them. And I don't think they, like, realize that. Do they, like, think that we're rich? Like, to get that money, it's, like, not easy for us. And we obviously did it and bought those tickets because we love BTS, and I feel like they took advantage of that. And they weren't organized enough, and this was something that we were all waiting for, and they just completely screwed us over. It was something that, you know, we were looking forward to and we're happy about, and I was just counting down the days. And then after the event, I just felt really, like, kind of empty. Like, really, that's what I've been looking forward to these past months, and it was a complete mess, unorganized. And I didn't get what was promised. So it was very disappointing. And I guess because we were the first event, so we were kind of like, oh, we were the guinea pigs. Like, all the other shows are going to be better. But we were wrong. Houston show was a mess. And tonight was the Atlanta show, and over 100 people weren't able to even get in the show. Honestly, when I saw that, I actually cried. I was like... I was lucky enough to, like, get in, even though it was a crappy experience. I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't allowed to see them live, get a high touch, or anything. I probably would have, like, broken down crying. So I'm sorry, armies, that you guys had to experience that, and TGM events is shit, and they need to get sued and disappear from this business, and they just need to go somewhere not near the boys or any other group or fans. They need to go to hell. Honestly, fuck them. They really just scammed everyone. Like, oh my god, like, do they not? It's like they crushed all of our dreams. Like, people were really looking forward to this, flying out of the, like, state and country just to, like, and they just, like, it's one thing, like, that they did that, but at least own up to it, you know? They decided to go MIA and said that there wasn't going to be any more online support, that if we had any problems, we had to address them at the events, at the venues. And that's just them running away from, like, all these complaints, because obviously Twitter has been, like, exploding with complaints, and I don't blame anyone. Like, myself, I've been talking hella shit because I'm fucking pissed off at TGM for what they did to SF, what they did in Houston, and what they did tonight in Atlanta was just by far the worst, and we need to take a stand. We must unite. We must, no, I'm joking. But seriously, hashtag sue TGM events, and I feel so bad for BTS. Like, I'm pretty sure they're hearing about this, and obviously they're not going to be happy that fans have been mistreated and scammed and all this stuff. So the last show is tomorrow in Toronto, I think. I am praying that at least one event is successful. I'll be salty because my event was horrible, but, you know, at least one event, TGM. Come on. At least one event.